Welcome to Making the Cut podcast with Chris Hill and Shawn, where we help you succeed in life and business by sharing principles and strategies that guide some of the most successful people in the world.
Welcome to another episode of the Making the Cut podcast. I'm Chris Hill with a solo episode interviewing Aaron Walker, author and entrepreneur. But before that, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
If you want to pursue a career in the food industry, Le Cordon Bleu is the largest network of culinary and hospitality schools with more than 35 institutes in 20 countries around the world. Le Cordon Bleu not only offers you one of the most respected culinary qualifications in the industry, it also gives you a once-in-a-lifetime multicultural experience. Be part of a 120-year legacy and join them for a lifelong journey on your path to culinary mastery. Apply now at cordonbleu.edu/USA.
Thanks, Shawn. Now, if you aren't familiar with Aaron Walker, definitely check out episode number 27, where we previously interviewed Aaron. He's a great guy with a lot of great wisdom. He became a self-made millionaire by the time he was in his mid-20s, tried to retire a couple times, neither worked, and now he spends his time helping men from all over the world get more fulfilled in the work that they do. But I'll let him share more of that and his story now, so we say we can hop on in. Well, Mr. Aaron Walker, how's it going today?
Hey, Chris, man, it's going great. Hey, how about you?
Doing great. Things are great here on the East Coast. A little chilly down there in Nashville still?
Man, it was 21 degrees this morning when I was doing my Facebook Live out on the Greenway. Yes, it is freezing cold here.
I saw the video, and I love tuning in for those. It's a nice kind of morning devotion of sorts to kind of get the day started.
Well, I love it, man. I do Facebook Lives about 4 days a week from the Greenway, and it started out, fun about 2.5-3 years ago. I didn't even know what I was doing. I threw it up there one day, and I went, I don't even know what I'm going to say. And I went, hey, this is Big A coming to you live from the Station Camp Greenway. And I went ahead and told my little message that I wanted to say. And, man, I've been doing 4 of those every week since, and that's been several years ago. So it's just a really good time for me to kind of get centered for the day.
That's what I would think. Well, we had you on about a year ago, and you obviously gave a lot of wisdom, told a bunch of your stories. So for folks listening, they can hear a lot more about your story in the previous episode. But as we're kind of going to the new year, a lot of folks are trying to find new ways to break through in their businesses and their relationships. And I'd just be curious to kind of hear, as I know that you interact with a lot of highly successful individuals, as in yourself as well. What do you think some folks that aren't getting the results they want, what they're missing or what they can maybe do better?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. A couple months ago, we had a live event here in Nashville. There were about 85 guys from about 4 or 5 different countries came together for a 2.5-day live mastermind meetup. We do that twice a year in our Iron Sharpens Iron mastermind groups. And one of the top topics was clarity. And people just don't have clarity. They just can't get clarity. And a guy named Kyle Lupnot called me about, 2 years ago, and he said, hey, man, I read your book, View from the Top, really enjoyed it. He said, I saw how when you went into your first business, you just decided, you went into it, and you killed it. And I said, well, it wasn't exactly that easy, but I understand what you said. He said, here's my dilemma. He said, I'm 35 years old. He said, there's more opportunities out there today than have ever been before, and I'm stuck in indecision. He said, I don't know whether to go left or right, and I just can't get clarity. And so we talked through that, and I said, Kyle, to be honest with you, I never thought about that. I never really thought about the fact that there were too many opportunities and you couldn't pick. Most people, I think, would be like, I don't even know which way to go. There's no opportunities. But when he told me that, I started thinking about my own personal life and all the opportunities that were afforded on a daily basis. I'm like, man, there's no way I can do all that. If you want to read a great book, read The One Thing, by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. And it talks about how we need to focus on one thing. Now, how do you get there? Here's what I tell people. First of all, you've got to understand what your passion is. Now, passion won't keep you there long term because that's an exhaustible resource, right? It won't keep you there. What you've got to discover is what is your purpose. And you're like, man, I never even thought about that. If you're just doing it for money, you're not going to do it long term. I just promise you, it's not going to keep you there long term. Chris, when I go to bed at night, I'm so excited to go to bed, go to sleep, so I can get up tomorrow and do the same thing over again that I did the previous day, because it's making an impact in other men's lives. The previous businesses that I owned, it was all about me. It was about me having a big house, a place on the beach, a big car. Nothing wrong with those things. I like to make money and I want to make more money. But when I start serving other people, when I start looking outward and focusing on other people's goals, I get more clarity. And I have a better understanding of what my purpose here is on earth. It's not just to serve ourselves, but it's to serve our family and the people that's in our social circles. And it's about other folks. And when you start looking outward, you gain a lot more clarity a lot faster.
It's kind of like the idea of the Japanese have the ikigai, which is where your greatest passion meets your greatest contribution, which then meets the world's kind of greatest need. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Very similar. Yes, it is. Matter of fact, if you'll read, there's a number of books. I won't bore you with, I love to read. I read a couple hours every day, and I've always got 3 or 4 books going on. But what you need to discover in the Big Leap, he was talking about some of the things that we do. We do things in our competence, and we need to be doing things in our area of genius. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. And I really dictate to our team the things that I'm going to do and the things I'm not going to do. We go through this process where we allocate out to others, we delegate out to others, or we automate, or we eliminate. And so I want to encourage you today to only do what you can do. Now, when you're a small business, I get it. I have been there, done that. We've owned 12 businesses, so I know all about carrying out the trash and making the sales and cleaning the toilet or whatever it needs to be done. But as soon as you can get to a position to do those things, delegate it, automate it, or eliminate it, you want to get it off your plate so that you can do what only you can do. And that's what Gay Hendricks is talking about in the book, The Big Leap, is that you need to focus on your area of genius. And once you are in that, you're in a state of mind that it gives you energy. It doesn't deplete you. It doesn't exhaust you to do something, and you can do it from now on. You would do it for money or no money. It's because it gives you energy, because it's your natural flow. It's your state of genius, not your state of competence.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So as folks are listening, we have a lot of folks in the hospitality industry that are either working long hours, that might have their own restaurant or hotel or bar, or they might lead people, or they might kind of be working their way up at a younger point in their career, where at one point earlier on you're kind of in the day-to-day grind of you're working in the kitchen and you're just trying to get the food out, and that's kind of what you're doing. But I guess you're more referring to why do you do this, the hospitality of taking care of people, or maybe even taking care of the people around you.
Well, what you need is a larger purpose. And let me explain it this way. If you were in downtown New York and there were 2 100-story buildings side by side, and I put a plank across the top and said, Chris, I'll give you $10 to walk across this plank, you'd look at me like, Big A, you're crazy. Now, there's no way I would walk across that plank for $10. I could lose my life. But if I took your little girl and put her on top of that building and set the building on fire, no amount of money would keep you from crossing that plank. You have a much larger purpose in order to get across that plank to salvage and save your little girl. Same way in business. If you're just doing it every day for the paycheck, you're going to see so many shiny objects. Things are going to come up around you. You've got to decide, what is it that I'm doing this for? Is it to serve the people? Is it to have a product that is amazing? Like I'm going to be top tier chef in whatever area. I don't know that lingo. But what is the purpose? And if you focus on that, the revenue will come. Same way in our industry. Like if I stop trying to make the sale and then I start trying to serve the public, the sales are going to come. They're going to come automatically as a result of me serving the audience well. So what we try to do is add value. in every way that I can, we add value. Here's where people miss it a lot of times. They try to give the minimal amount just to get compensated. What we try to do is how much can we give and still make a profit? How much can we give to this person in regards to resources or relationships or connections or encouragement or edify? What can I do for my client to wow them? Man, you couldn't run them off with a stick if you give that kind of service. Our purpose is in serving that person well, and they'll stick around, they'll pay you money as a result of it.
Well, and that kind of ties back to what you said a little bit earlier, with the conversation you had with the guy who was trying to figure out, what kind of business to start. And there's so many options for, as consumers, there's so many options too. So, if we're just competing on price, then it's a race to the bottom. But if we are able to add more value, to differentiate ourselves in whatever way makes the most sense to us, then yeah, I think absolutely.
Let me give some feedback on that as we talk about it. Years ago, I hired Dr. David Kruger. He was my personal coach, and he coaches like NFL players and movie stars, and he helps them understand why they do what they do and how to block out the noise so they can focus. They can be an inch wide and a mile deep, like Greg McCowan talks about it in his book, Essentialism. And when I hired him, he was my coach for about 8 months or so, and we get to the end. He said, when you start coaching, what are you going to charge? And I told him what I was going to charge, and he said, you'll starve to death. And I said, I thought he meant I was charging too much. And I said, well, I don't really want to go down. He goes, to go down? He goes, you're not charging enough. I said, what do you mean? He said, let me teach you something about perception. I said, okay, what is it? He said, if I were to come to you and said, hey, Big A, I've got a 550 SEL Mercedes 2018, and I want to sell it to you, and it's $5,000. He said, what would you say? Well, what's wrong with it? I mean, that's the first question on my mind. He said, that's exactly what they're going to say to you about your coaching, because you don't charge enough. There's perceived value. And if it's too less, it takes more bandwidth to figure out what's wrong with it than it does to convince yourself to pay more. He said, and people don't want something like everybody else has got. They will come to you and they'll say, hey, it's a little bit more than I wanted to spend, but it's expensive. It must be good. A lot of you are going to push back from that today, and you're not going to want to increase your prices. If you want to increase your business and get better clients, increase your prices. People that are able and capable and competent individuals know that there's no free lunches. They know that they're going to have to pay top price to get top service and top quality. So my encouragement to you today is, instead of lowering your price, you may consider raising it.
And as a consumer, I think we all value things that are more expensive, because it takes more of our effort to make the money to pay for them.
Well, we only value what we pay for. And I was reading a book recently that Russell Brunson wrote called Expert Secrets. And it's a great book, by the way. And in it, he said that he invited a number of his friends to attend his inner circle, which was $25,000 a year. And he didn't charge them. He just said, hey, you guys come and I want to gift this to you. He said not one of his inner circle friends ever took a business to 7 figures. He said everybody that paid him $25,000 to join went on and had 7-figure businesses, because we don't value what we don't pay for. That's the reason a lot of these mastermind groups out there today, you get together and you meet in your community, and next thing you know, somebody invites you to play golf, or a business deal comes up and you go do it because you got nothing to lose. There's no consequence as a result of you not going to that meeting. That's why paid mastermind groups are so much better, because you're not going to miss. And by not missing, you're going to have the trusted advisors around you that's going to breathe life into you and encouragement and resources. There's a regular schedule and itinerary that you follow, and we don't procrastinate, kick the can down the road, and we keep up doing the things that we know to do in order to be successful. See, it's all perception, and we need to have the right perception in order to be successful.
Absolutely. Well, as it relates to masterminds, one of your quotes that I love is, the enemy to excellence is isolation. Maybe you could just share a bit about what that means to you.
Yeah, that wasn't original to me. I've said it enough. I ought to claim it and own it. But a guy named Greg, is the original quote from that saying, but I've adopted it because I love it so much. And it's true. 20 plus years ago, Dave Ramsey invited me to join his mastermind group, and I was scared to death. I was like, I don't even know what a mastermind group is. He said, just come to my office. And he said, I'll explain it to you. I'll introduce you to the guys. So I went to his office on Wednesday morning. We all live here in Nashville together. So I went to his office, and I was intimidated. I was like, man, Ken Abraham's in there, and Dan Miller, and Jeff Mosley, and some of those guys may or may not mean anything to you guys. And I'm like, dude, these guys are pretty successful. And so we started talking, and we started reading books together, and we started giving resources and ideas, and I fell in love with the process because they were trusted advisors. They didn't have anything to gain or lose as a result of what they told me. And I started thinking, I could be at my office alone right now trying to make a big decision, and I only have one filter. I only have one life experience. There's only one way for me to look at this, and I'm not sure that I'm looking at it properly. So I would go into the group and I would say, this is what I'm thinking about doing, or a business I'm going to buy, or a business I'm going to start. And they would go, Big A, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard you say. Here's why that's not going to work. And I would get a general consensus from the multitudes. They would say, and I would be like, I didn't even know that. I mean, like, how did you know that? They're like, I've done that, been there, and I can help you not do that. Or I would go in and be timid about something. Like, I think this will work. And they'll go, are you kidding? You're going to kill it doing that. And here's a resource. Here's an idea. I'm going to hold you accountable for doing this in a certain period of time. Well, they get me all fired up. I'd get amped up, and I'd go back the next week and report. I did this or I did that. And that held me in the center of the road. It was like guardrails or boundaries. It was like, man, I got to get it done because I got to report next week whether I did it or not. And that's why I say isolation is the enemy to excellence. Brian Moran talks about in his book, The 12-Week Year, our biggest enemy is procrastination. And we keep kicking the can down the road. I'll get to it next week. I'll get to it next quarter. I'll get to it next year. Nobody holds you accountable. Nobody's looking over your shoulder. Nobody even knows that you want to do it. But when you throw it out there in a group, and they're like, Big A, did you get it done? Did you accomplish it this week? Did you do those tasks? No, I didn't do it done. Well, you loser? What are you doing? They got a big L on their forehead, going, loser. And I'm like, man, you're right. I can't come back in here next week. Well, when you do the task, the goal happens. And when the goal happens, you build self-confidence, your self-esteem goes up, and then you go, man, I can do this. And you change that mindset from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. And it just gives you that encouragement. And there is nothing ever been said more true than isolation is the enemy to excellence. If you want to excel, you got to get people around you.
Well, and these, I assume, are the kind of people that are some are in the same industry, some not, but I know your wife Robin might not be able to give you the same type of feedback and conversation that these individuals are able to, right?
Well, that's true. I always encourage people, don't be in a mastermind with family or business partners because they're biased. Like Robin wants me to have the best, but she might not be willing to call me out and say, no, that really sucks. I mean, you don't want to hurt my feelings, right? Or the business associate may be like, man, I don't want you to do that because that's going to affect my income. When you have trusted advisors, they need to be non-biased. They don't have any connection or relationship whatsoever with the outcome. Then you're going to get an honest feedback and an honest answer. We can't know everything, right? And we talk about reading. I don't know how you enjoy, absorbing your information, whether it's podcast or TED Talks. I know you've crushed a couple of TED Talks too. But when you get up there and you start reading great information, you're encouraged and you exercise and implement that strategy. See, a lot of people will say, well, wisdom is the basis for success. No, it isn't. Implementation of the wisdom is what is going to cause you to be successful. And it's hard to have that kind of stamina yourself. You need people around you to hold your arms up when you get tired and say, come on, man, you got this. We need that encouragement. And I'm just telling you, masterminds do that. Whether it's a mastermind with us or other masterminds, when you meet regularly, we meet every single week for an hour on a video conference. When we do that, guys come in there prepared because they don't want to look like the loser. They want to come in there and say, I've done what I said I was going to do. And then it forms a habit. after a period of time, you still need the encouragement, still need people walking with you, but you change your habits. As Charles Duhigg talks about in The Power of Habit. It's another great book.
Absolutely.
You can go to my website. I'll give you a whole list of books.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, that's the reason I say that quote all the time. Isolation's the enemy text.
So you definitely subscribe to the idea that you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Jim Rohn, yes, he said it great. You are. A lot of you guys out there today got some friends you need to get rid of. I'm just telling you, they're deadbeats. They're not helping you get to where you need to go. And you're like, Big A, that sounds cold. Well, the truth of the matter is you can't pick your family, but you can pick your friends. And Robin and I surround ourselves with people with positive growth mindsets. I don't want people around my daughters and my grandkids that are deadbeats, that are not encouraging them and helping them. I want my grandkids around people that are edifying them and lifting them up and showing them the ropes and teaching them, giving them resources and walking the line with them through life. I want people to help. I don't want somebody going, no, it can't be done. There's no way you're ever going to. I'm like, get out of my face. I don't need that. What I need is people saying, come on, Big A, you can do it. Or my grandsons, hey, man, you got what it takes. You can do it. And, man, when you start surrounding yourself with that kind of enthusiasm and excitement and resources, how can you not help but be successful? So some of you guys today, check Billy Bob and Toby Keith or whoever off your list. Not Toby Keith. I don't know why I said him. Check him off your list and go, hey, you're not got a place in my life anymore. I mean, we're really careful who we pick as our friends.
And that's one of the things I wanted to kind of touch on was, a lot of our listeners are in an industry that's has challenges with alcohol and drugs and going out after work, and that's a whole different conversation for a different day. But how might they start to audit the people they spend time with? Yeah.
We do what's called a personal assessment, and you can go to my website, View from the Top, download that for free. There's another one called What Do I Want? A couple of resources that you can go there and get.
And they're both great, by the way. I've downloaded both of them. They're great resources.
Yeah, thank you. I just wrote a new one recently for married couples, and it's viewfromthetop.com/spouse survey. It's all the questions you want to ask your spouse and you're scared to, and there's 25 questions for him and her that you can. A lot of people are taking date nights now. They're going out filling these out and discussing them. One guy called me the other day and said, we spent the whole weekend going over your 3 documents, and he said it's radically transformed the way we do life and our marriage. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Wow.
So go there and download those documents for free. Go to viewfromthetop.com. But what was the question? I got talking so much about the question.
Yeah. So, folks that might be trying to audit or need to audit.
Yeah. Right. So what you want to do is when you do that personal assessment, you start looking at your identity and your ideals, your relationships, your faith, your family, your career, and you start saying, what's important? Like, to me, what's important? Most people are not that proactive. They're living their life reactive. And then you use the same standard by which to measure them. You say, hey, is this guy in alignment with my identity and my ideals? Does he have the same value on relationships that I do? Is his career really important to him, or is he just a deadbeat and he doesn't care anything about it? So you start picking your friends based on your personal assessment of yourself. And you say, these are things that are important to me. Like, I have a mission, vision, and values. And everything that I do, I measure it through my values. And if you don't have the same values that I do, I'm not going to be your friend long-term, intimately. I may tolerate you, and we may be in a discussion, but you're not going to get invited over to my house to eat dinner, and we're not going to the movies together and on vacation because you don't coincide with my values. And I just promise you, if you're hanging out with people, their values don't align with yours, eventually you're going to dilute yours as well. And so I would just encourage you to make that transition and align it with people that align with your values.
Absolutely. As it kind of relates to that as well, and maybe even we can maybe include spouses and significant others in this. Having, and I'm sure you've had plenty of these conversations in the mastermind. I've heard you speak about how there's no punches held at the masterminds in terms of calling people out or saying things people need to hear. How do you go about having a conversation with somebody? Maybe it's like we just talked about, but also maybe could just be about something important they need to hear?
Well, here's the thing. People call me frank. I get tickled. They're like, you're very frank about things. And early on in my career, people would say I was a little bit arrogant or condescending. And my wife said, they just don't really know you. It's just that I'm blunt. I don't have time to beat around the bush to, make you feel good and all that. It's like, I can't help you making you feel good. I can help you telling you the truth. And that's what I want people to do to me also. So in the mastermind groups, nothing against women. There's plenty groups out there for women in mastermind groups, but my niche market is men, because I've been involved in men's groups, accountability groups, mastermind groups my whole life. So I know how men think. I also know what men struggle with, and pornography being one of them. A lot of guys drink way too much, and we call you out and we say, hey, that's not going to serve you well long term. We need 2 or 3 hours to talk about all this stuff, Chris. But I wrote a blog post several years ago, and it said, every fiber of my body hates alcohol. And I've had a lot of pushback on that. I've had a lot of people send me hate mail over it, but I've had a lot of people come around to me. It's had thousands of views. People read it. And here's the reason why. I'm not even saying that you can't. I mean, that's up to you. For me, totally abstinent. I mean, no alcohol, period, because it's not best. See, I'm not saying, I'm a Christ follower by faith, and I'm not even saying it's a sin. What I'm saying is it's not best. You see, I want best. I don't want second best. I don't want mediocrity in my life, period. Nobody has ever said, oh man, my life is so much better because I drink Jack and Coke. I'm like, no, you may be an alcoholic, or you may be causing somebody else to stumble, or the influence that somebody else is looking up to you, and you may cause them. I don't want it on my conscience. I don't want my grandkids seeing Big A drink and them saying it's okay for them and them end up an alcoholic. I don't want that on my conscience, or get in a car and have a car wreck, get killed because they saw their model, portraying that it was okay. I'm just saying, for me and my family, it's just totally off limits because I want best. And that's what I want you guys to have today in business. With what you look at, we teach authenticity. I want you to be authentic. I want you to watch the things on TV in front of your wife as you would when she weren't there. I don't want you Googling it, goggling, or whatever the word is, girls, when your wife's not around. I want you to talk and tell the same jokes in front of your kids as you do your colleagues at work. I want the same guy, Chris, showing up every single day, because living the life the other way is exhausting. And this is the kind of stuff that we teach in the mastermind.
Yeah, well, it is exhausting. Yeah, I can speak, for myself. I my early mid-20s, drank a fair amount, and then I woke up one day and I was like, I don't want this anymore. I was sleeping too late. I was not being productive. But then, more than probably all of that, I realized, I'm not able to serve the world in the way that I know I'm capable of with this lifestyle.
Yes. You can't do it, man. Plus the devastation it's caused in my personal family, and the divorces, and just on and on and on, man. I can list you stuff forever. And my point is, why flirt with that? Why do I don't have the time to. I'd rather be out impacting the lives of other people, getting up early, being productive, learning, reading, starting businesses, selling businesses, taking amazing vacations. Life's an adventure. And I want everything in my life to coincide together to help me maximize this experience, not mitigate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks who are looking to maybe get in a mastermind, I know you guys help organize them, and you said, I think y'all are organizing your 14th mastermind. You obviously have a blueprint, and I know you wrote the book on that as well. How would you relate that to just having a mentor? How would you kind of relate those two ideas?
Yeah, well, it's two different things, obviously. They can be, simultaneous, in the groups, mentoring and masterminding. It's very similar in nature. Mentoring usually is a very, very long term. I've had mentors for decades that have helped me walk through life individually, one-on-one. Masterminding is where a group of people come together with the same objective, maybe different industries, maybe different amounts of revenue that they're trying to produce, but the objectives are to grow, to be better. In our mastermind groups, 50% is personal and 50% is professional development. The reason I do that is because years ago, decades now, it's hard to believe, Chris, 40 years this year I've been an entrepreneur.
Oh, wow.
And I think, man, it went by just in a nanosecond. But I almost lost my family because I was so in pursuit of making another $50,000 or having another business. And I came home one day, as I told you in the earlier episode a year ago, with a pocket full of money to a house full of strangers. And I'm like, man, I better wake up, because I don't know who my little girl's piano teacher is, and I don't know what my wife's favorite color is, and I'm working around the clock and nobody cares. And I started thinking about the value of relationships. And then shortly thereafter, I had an automobile accident back in 2001 where I ran over and killed a pedestrian. And you talking about my life changing and coming to a complete halt instantaneously, I started thinking about my legacy, and I started reflecting back on how I was treating my kids and my wife and business and making money, and ego and pride and all those things started racing through my mind. And I said, what would my legacy be today had that been me that got killed? And I thought it would have been poor kid from Nashville, Tennessee, makes enough money to retire at 27 and nobody cares. And I said, you know what, man, I want to look outward and start impacting the lives of other people. If I die before you, Chris, I want you to stand there at my casket and go, you know what, I knew Big A and my life was better as a result of having known him. He helped me. He encouraged me. He helped me do this or that. He was an inspiration to my life. See, that's the legacy I want to leave. I want to leave a legacy of wisdom that can transcend generations to come, because nobody cares about your success. They only care about how your life impacts theirs. And we really need to bring that into focus so that we can live the life that we were created to.
For folks that are on the fence, thinking about Mastermind, whether they use one of your programs or decide to kind of go on their own, what would you tell someone that says, well, I can't afford that, or I want to invest more money back into my business instead of this?
Well, everybody's got to make their own decision. I don't want this interview to be a sales tool, necessarily for our mastermind, but I'll just give you some objective vantage points as it relates to making that decision. It's a very minimal cost for the results. And most people get probably a 10x return based on resources, relationships, information, accountability. I could list for hours the benefits of being involved in a group. Historically, not always, and we had a great group that met, and we didn't pay for a dozen years in Dave Ramsey's group. It wasn't a paid mastermind, but we were all very highly motivated, very disciplined group of 10 businessmen that are here in Nashville, and we met because we knew the value. We were a little older. I actually was the youngest guy in the group, and I'm 58 now, and so I was the youngest guy in there. The other guys are, at the time, of course it was 20 years ago, but they were, I was the youngest guy. But my point in saying that, we were a little bit more seasoned. Most groups don't make it that don't pay, because there's no investment. There's no consequence as a result of missing the meeting. When you feel the pain of, laying out the cash, you're going to attend the meeting and you're going to get something out. Historically, we don't value what we don't pay for. So I would just say, get involved in a group. If you can't afford it, I get it. I totally understand. I personally couldn't afford not to be in one because I know the value. So get a mentor, get in a group, get an accountability group, and then when you feel like it's a good time, get involved in one of these groups, whether it's my group or someone else's group. But the point of the matter of this interview is get in a group, get people around you so that isolation is not your enemy.
As we're kind of wrapping up the year here, 2018 going into 2019, what are some advice you might have for some folks listening? I've heard you talk about the 90-day sprint. Maybe is that something folks might consider, thinking about as they go in the new year?
Yeah, I would do that without a question. If I were you, I would order Brian Moran's 12-week year. Many of our entrepreneurs are doing that, including myself. And it's a 12-week sprint that you lay out very specific goals, 2 or 3 goals, no more than that. You absolutely act on the task and you don't pay attention to the goal. You ask every single day. He teaches you a process by which you grade yourself numerically, and we have had guys had huge success, and we do that. We've been doing it 2.5 years now, every 12 weeks, and our business is growing between 25 and 40% annually as a result of implementing that strategy. So Brian Moran, 12-week year, yeah, I'd go get it.
And so that takes the idea of, if you tackle each task every day, then the goal at the end kind of takes care of itself.
Well, it does, and that's where we get in trouble. We focus on the goal and not the task. And when you do the task every single day, for example, if you lay out, I need to call 12 people a day, I need to do these 3 tasks, whatever the task is for your goal, do that every single day, and you watch this intense, focused energy and the results that it produces. We've had guys literally add millions of dollars to their top line revenue by becoming this extremely focused.
That's great. It reminds me a lot of, I'm a college football fan. I went to the University of Alabama, and our coach Nick Saban has the process, which is don't focus on championships, don't focus on going to the SEC championship, focus on this play and this practice in July or August, and if you do that every single day for 6 months, come December, come January, then you have your chance to play for that championship.
All right, who's going to win? So it's the Dogs and
the Crimson Tide. Yeah, well,
who's going to do it?
I went to Alabama, but I grew up in Atlanta. If someone were to beat us, I'd be okay if it were Georgia. But I can't say that I am not rooting hard for the Crimson Tide. Probably one of few out there.
Hey, this interview probably will have already released, and we'll look back and we'll see what you had predicted, see if it was accurate or not.
Yeah, I'll shoot you an email with the results. Well, Aaron, it's been a lot of fun to have you back on, especially as the new year rolls around. For some of those folks listening out there, entrepreneurs or folks out there that are just trying to make 2019 their best year ever, some kind of maybe final thoughts as we wrap up for them.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you having me back on, too. I always enjoy talking with you. Making the cut, baby. That's what it's all about.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I want to encourage you guys to develop a new mindset for 2019. When I was a child, my mom would always say, can't, couldn't do it, and could did it all. And I hated that saying when she said it, but I've adopted it as my life mantra. I've developed a mindset of I can do it. The other thing is fear. A lot of you are afraid to get started. You're afraid you're going to fail. And I would just simply say, fear missing an opportunity more than you fear failure, and develop a mindset of I can do it, and you watch success come rolling your way in 2019.
Some valuable wisdom. Thank you, Big A. A pleasure as always.
Chris, thanks, buddy.
Thank you. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye. So that was my conversation with Aaron Walker. What a great guy. I had a blast, a lot of fun. He's such high energy, a lot of great wisdom there. For me, I just love hearing him talk about surrounding yourself with people that are going to make your life better. They're going to hold you accountable, whether it's the people in your personal life, at work, however it might be. And I think now we can do that more than ever. We're more connected than ever before. And there's really no reason not to find ways to hold ourselves more accountable. So I encourage you, as the new year comes pretty soon here, to start thinking about how you can make 2019 your best year ever by surrounding yourself with people that are going to make it better. And that's one of our goals here on the podcast, to give you value, to provide insights from people that have done it for themselves and can teach all of us. So with that, here's a final quote from Aaron himself. Isolation is the enemy of excellence. And with that, we're signing off.